points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mendel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. With Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mendel. Dave Manouk away from the show again. My understanding is that he's ventured to Kuala Lumpur for tonight's post-game show. That's where Dave is, Kuala Lumpur. For all those who are keeping track at home, hopefully we'll be able to pay the ransom and get him back into North America in due time. But Ezzy and I are not willing to dig that deep into our pockets. Good to see you, though, Mr. Ginsburg. It has been a full 24 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. What a game. I mean, you can say whatever you want about this Jets team, but they're certainly fun to watch. I mean, it was a good start to that game, but it quickly fell apart in the second period. But yeah, we're going to do another post-game show here. And, even though, this severely hurts the Jets' playoff chances, you could just tell, I mean, as that game progressed, the Jets just didn't have a lot left in the tank. And they just decided to, set a world record for penalties in one game, right?
Well, you know what? I think this game reminded me the most of, and I don't know about the people in the chat, but I assume that some of them in the chat will maybe feel the same way. It reminded me that, when you beat, albeit squeak by, some of the worst teams in the league and get victories that way, and then you play an upper echelon team, you really do get to see the difference in talent on display and the talent disparity between that of the Winnipeg Jets and that of a high quality team like the Toronto Maple Leafs. Because
I was going to say, Drew, sorry, This was a game in which I think the Jets really missed Kyle Connor, right? Like, you didn't see it as much yesterday against a Sabres team that played hard and give them credit. They almost stole a win, but they don't have a Kyle Connor. They don't have a Nikolai Ehlers. And they definitely don't have an Austin Matthews, John Tavares, or William Nylander, right? So I really thought, the Jets could have used a player of Kyle Connor's skill. But you're absolutely right. I mean, the Jets, we know they were lucky to get the 2 points yesterday against the Sabres. And when you give the Leafs that many chances on the power play, you just know they're going to score eventually, right? They killed off a few of them.
They killed off the first two of them. Yeah.
There's just too many dangerous players there. And, this Leafs team, they've got a bunch of injuries right now, right? Like Jake Muzzin's still out of the lineup. It was announced today Peter Mrazek's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. Jack Campbell's going to be back soon. But it almost looked like, after the Jets put in 2 goals, that we were going to see Michael Hutchinson maybe come in, which was going to be a blast from the past. But luckily, the Leafs sorted it out, tied the game up, and it really got ugly towards the end of the second period.
It was just one-sided there. But I mean, as much as it chagrins me to say it, this Toronto Maple Leafs team is a very good hockey team. And of course, they're a very good regular season hockey team until they win in the playoffs. But that's a separate issue for another day, another time that the Winnipeg Jets won't have to worry about, because the Jets it was an uphill climb to make the playoffs for the Jets to begin with. A loss tonight certainly puts a little more cold water on that idea. And then they weren't going to face the Maple Leafs in the playoffs no matter what, barring some sort of miraculous run, which wasn't going to happen. But you saw it in just the way the game was played. The Leafs, they sort of sleptwalked through the first 10 minutes or so of the game, but then they took control. And that second period, and that's where the game really turned on its head, because it's 2-1 for the Jets after 20 minutes, and we'll get into all the goals and we'll get into the Betway game recap. But for a Jets team that has been throughout the course of the year had mental lapses for periods at a time, you just can't do that against a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then you give up 2 power play goals and a shorthanded goal in one period. I mean, you're not supposed to give up 2 power play goals and a shorthanded goal in the span of 3 or 4 games, never mind 20 minutes. And it was a very rude awakening for the Winnipeg Jets, sort of reminding them after what had been a decent first 20 minutes that this is really, they're punching up in their weight class, and the Leafs were all too happy to remind the Jets of where they are in the standings.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you mentioned, that this is a really good Leafs team. And I really like the look of that fourth line with Kyle Clifford and Wayne Simmons and Jason Spezza. Obviously, there was that fight at the end that had absolutely nothing to do with the game between Clifford and Dylan. I like those types of fights because those are, just two veteran, big boys going at it. Right. Even though I think, a lot of people were watching that thinking like, what the hell's the point of this when the game is, 6-3, or I forget if it was 6-3 or 7-3 at that point. But, I think the depth of this team was on display, right? Like Ilya Mikheyev, we've talked about him. We saw him a lot last year with the Canadian division. And, he gets the, fifth Leafs goal, which, we were talking about right before we, went live. That was the killer goal. You're down 4-3. The Leafs are outplaying you. And then you give up a shorthanded goal. I mean, there's not a lot of times where you give up 5 goals and you win a hockey game, right? Like you see it, once in a while, but you don't see it very often. And we talk about Shalgren. He got, better as the game progressed. But I think, when you're talking about Ilya Mikheyev and Alex Kerfoot's had a really nice season, Pierre Engvall, just talking about the forwards here. And, on defense, we talked about Jake Muzzin's out, Ilya Labushkin, who they got from Arizona. I believe Brett Ritchie was the player that went the other way. So they've got some injuries here, right?
Yeah, Nick Ritchie, not Brett Ritchie.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Drew. You're right. Yeah. I meant to say Nick Ritchie. But they're deep, and Mark Giordano, he definitely got undressed by Blake Wheeler on that first goal. We'll get into it, but I see Giordano being like a third pairing defenseman when they're completely healthy. But even a guy like Timothy Liljegren, like he can skate, really good young defenseman. So this is a deep team, but ultimately, if the Leafs get out of the first round, we'll see. But it's I think in the Eastern Conference, Drew, regardless of what the matchups are, and we obviously don't know what the matchups are, I could see probably every series going either way, right? Like Pittsburgh's a team that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. They're right up there. A lot of people like Florida, a lot of people like Carolina, but like, are you really going to bet against Tampa Bay in a 7-game series? So we'll see what happens with the Leafs in the playoffs, but I definitely like the way they're constructed more this year than last year.
Well, and sure, and there'll be plenty of time to talk about the playoff matchups and plenty of time to talk about the other teams on the Saturday shows once April hits or once the end of April comes about, because it's clear that the Winnipeg Jets are unlikely to be a playoff team when the season's over. But in any event, I mean, look, let's get into the game recap for tonight, Mr. Ginsburg. There were plenty of goals to get to, and of course, the game recap is brought to you by our friends at Betway. Betway is one of the most trusted voices in sports betting, both in Canada and all around the world. It's simple, fun, and safe to bet with Betway, with a large selection of betting options in sports, as well as strong promotions and fair odds. What are you waiting for? Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. Hopefully, you took the over on tonight's game and not the under, because if you took the under, I'm not quite sure what you thought was going to happen between these two teams that are somewhat defensively deficient, and the 10 goals scored would tell you that you went the wrong way in that room. Blake Wheeler opens the scoring. Couldn't ask for a better start for the Winnipeg Jets. First of all, they got some shots on goal early in the game, which had been a problem for this team for a while, having to wait 5, 7, 9, 11 minutes to get their first shot on goal. That wasn't the issue tonight. Blake Wheeler, his 12th of the year, assist to Zach Sanford at the 3:19 mark. And, had the game ended there, you would have seen plenty of that Blake Wheeler goal on the highlight reels for the next few days to come, because he absolutely undresses Mark Giordano on this play.
You should still see this on the highlight reels, even though the Jets didn't win the game. I agree with you, Drew. And
you might see Austin Matthews short, 50th winner in 18 different angles instead of that one. But say la vie.
It was one of the worst 50th goals I've ever seen. I mean, I you know what?
Hey, Keith Tkachuk scored his 50th into an empty net also.
Yeah, a goal is a goal, right? Like it's going to count the same on the score sheet or in the stats column, whatever you want to say. But I just like to see a 50th goal actually scored with the goalie in the net. You could get the feeling, that Matthews was going to score with the empty net there. But yeah, this is just an unbelievable individual effort. And Mark Giordano won the Norris Trophy a few years ago, and yeah, he's an older defenseman. He's in his late 30s. But this is just a masterclass by Blake Wheeler turning, Giordano, catching him, a little bit flat-footed, right? And Giordano, I'm sure will be still thinking about that one probably, at least tonight before he goes to bed. But they got the win, so that'll help him out a little bit more. But also a really nice, move on Shalgren. Like it was just a nice shot. Like backhand to forehand and just picked his spot. And Wheeler just continued his strong play from last night and the last few weeks. He scored obviously the shootout winner last night. So yeah, a really nice way to open the game, scoring the opening goal in really nice fashion.
Yeah, look, we've been critical of Blake Wheeler on this show when he's deserved it. Blake Wheeler's been playing some good hockey as of late. So I think, full marks to the Jets captain for stepping up his game when it matters most over the last few weeks. Now, ultimately, it'll probably be too little, too late, but you can't fault anything with that effort in opening the scoring on tonight's goal, in tonight's game. There's just a beautiful goal, a beautiful individual effort by the Jets captain to undress a veteran defenseman, something you don't see happen very often. A guy like Giordano knows how to play one-on-one against a guy like Wheeler coming down on him. Usually the defenseman is going to win that one. Not tonight. Blake Wheeler absolutely with a beautiful play to get the Jets on the board to start tonight's game. 1-0 early. 2-0 not that many minutes later. 4 minutes and 26 seconds later. Paul Stastny with his 18th of the year, assists to Nikolai Ehlers and Mark Scheifele. And this is a Stastny with a good veteran move going on the wraparound and catching Shalgren looking the other way.
Yeah, and Ehlers had a scoring chance right prior to that.
That's right.
And what I thought was interesting about this goal is it's obviously a fortuitous rebound, right? Ehlers' shot goes off the backboards, and Stastny has it on the backhand on the opposite side. And then Shalgren is expecting, I think, it to come out the other way, and he just doesn't have time. So it's a smart play by Stastny to kind of reverse and go wrap around the other side of the net, right? And that's just shows you, another example. We've seen that for years here in Winnipeg. Obviously, Stastny left and came back, but yeah, it was just a nice wraparound. We've seemed to see like more wraparound goals as of late. You don't really see them very often.
Yeah.
You saw one the other night with Nick Ehlers, right? So yeah, just a nice shift from that line. Ehlers, I thought Ehlers was great all night long. I mean, and why should we be surprised? He's one of the Jets' top players. But yeah, that was just a smart veteran move, taking that rebound and switching it up, and Shalgren just didn't have any, opportunity to get back.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's 2-0 for the Jets within the first 8 minutes of the game, which is as good of a start you could hope for, especially in the second half of a back-to-back going up against a high-powered opponent in the Toronto Maple Leafs. But it's really right after that goal that the Jets begin to get into their penalty troubles. They take 2 penalties back-to-back. Blake Wheeler for tripping at the 9:37 mark, then Ville Heinola just after the Jets kill off the Wheeler penalty at the 11:45 mark. Now the Jets did kill off both of those penalties, so they get credit for that. The penalty kill was looking good at that point in time, but maybe that was sort of the beginning of the end when it came to the undisciplined play. And if you're going to keep giving the Maple Leafs opportunities on the power play, you're eventually going to get bit by it. It didn't end up happening in that period, but it did happen in the second period. The Leafs get on the board in the first period. Mark Giordano, his revenge, his 7th of the season, assist to Mikheyev and Timothy Liljegren. This one is a pinball effect by Giordano. Fortunate a couple fortunate bounces. Not that the Leafs necessarily need fortunate bounces, given how high powered their offense is, but it pinballs here, there, and everywhere, and beats Eric Comrie to make it 2-1 after 20 minutes, as he.
Yeah, and I'm just watching the replay on NHL.com as we're doing the post game show here, and you won't see it on the replay if you press play beside the goal. But if you remember, Mark Scheifele gave away the puck to Ilya Mikheyev before that sequence, and then the Leafs, right? So that was kind of a rough shift for Scheifele there, and
another rough game for Scheifele, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, and he gets what did he finish with, a couple of assists, right?
Yeah.
But the puck goes off of Brendan Dillon's leg here. So yeah, like Giordano makes up for, the Wheeler goal and getting a little bit undressed there, as you mentioned. Not a little bit undressed. He was undressed. Yeah. So, Giordano gets his first goal as a Leaf, but it's a pretty ugly one off of Dillon's leg.
And we have to talk about the Scheifele play there, because the Jets are in a good position at that point in time. Scheifele's carrying the puck at the Leafs blue line, and it's just a lazy backhand pass that leads to the rush up the ice going the other way, and it's a lucky goal in that it pinballs and could have just as easily pinballed harmlessly into the corner. But it's just another example of Mark Scheifele not making the smart play and hurting the team. And some people might say, you're picking on him. Look at the point totals. Look how great he's been looking at the point totals. And yeah, he did get 2 assists tonight. But look, he was more responsible for goals against than I would say he was responsible for goals for, even with those 2 assists that he scored in tonight's game. And that's just sort of been his season in a nutshell. Whatever he gives offensively, he more than takes back with some of his poor play, his poor reads, his poor decision-making, and his poor back-checking.
Well, at the end of the year, when the Stanley Cup playoffs are over, what do people remember? People remember who wins the Stanley Cup, who wins the Conn Smythe Trophy, who has a good playoffs. People are going to remember what happened during the regular season, but you think, like how many people off the top of their head can say how many points Steven Stamkos had during the regular season last year? Like, nobody cares. So if Mark Scheifele ends up finishing the season with 80 points or 85 points or whatever, and the Jets miss the playoffs, I mean, it just shows you that, you don't play the game for point totals. And yeah, Mark Scheifele's a top 20 center, in the NHL. He might even be, top 15, top 10 center. But I mean, you have to point out, these types of plays. And that's something that, I remember we were talking about this 2 seasons ago going into the regular season about how Mark Scheifele really had to improve his defensive game. And it hasn't happened. I mean, we've seen it with Kyle Connor. We've seen it with other players like Nikolai Ehlers. Yeah. But we just haven't seen it with Mark Scheifele. So yeah, I mean,
I think he's regressed even. It's not that he hasn't even continued. He hasn't even elevated his defensive play. It's that it's regressed. His decision-making is worse than it used to be. I mean, you never would have seen Mark Scheifele in his prime. I'm talking about a few years ago when he was, on the lips of some of the best centers in the league offensively. You wouldn't see lazy, irresponsible plays like the one that led to the Leafs goal here. And that's just what that is. Because if he dumps it into the corner, nothing bad is going to happen. Only bad things can happen with soft, lazy backhand passes at any blue line, at either team's blue line. Only bad things can happen.
Well, and especially against a Leafs team that's one of the better transition offense teams in the league, right? Like, how many times did we see that tonight? I mean, like, regardless of what line is out there, I mean, less so the fourth line, but, William Nylander's now on the third line, and we know what he did in that second period, right, on the power play. So, like, I mean, this Leafs team is so deep. So to make that type of play, and you can't tell me that it's because it's the second game of a back-to-back and Scheifele is tired. I mean, like, he had 2 assists and he was pretty good on the power play. I mean, sometimes it's just inexplicable. You're just wondering yourself, like, how is a top center in the NHL making a play like that? And we've seen it way too many times this year.
You're exactly right, Ezra. It's 2-1 for the Jets after 20 minutes, very easily. Well, I mean, 2-1. You're taking that. You're happy with that. The Jets, were outshot 12-8 in the first period, but you're up 2-1. You're okay. You're in a good position after 20 minutes. You don't have any complaints about where things are at after 20 minutes, and then it all goes haywire in that third period. Pardon me, in that second period, and it only takes a minute 58 for the Maple Leafs to tie the game. Mason Appleton takes a tripping penalty at the 140 mark of the second period, and William Nylander gets the power play goal, his 25th of the year, assist to Austin Matthews, assist to Mitch Marner, and it's 2-2 less than 2 minutes into the second period. And all the good vibes that the Jets had and that the good effort that the Jets put together, having that 2-0 lead, has evaporated before the game is even 22 minutes old at that point, Ezzy.
Yeah, and that's always a killer when, you don't score that. I think there was something like 40 seconds left or 50 seconds left on the Jets power play to start the second period.
That's right.
And it's always a killer when, then the Leafs go on the power play right after that. And, just watching the Leafs, move the puck around on the power play. The thing is, like, it reminds me of Tampa Bay and Edmonton. Like, you have so many players that can hurt you, right? Like Mitch Marner can shoot the puck, but he can set it up as well. Like, we know Austin Matthews, he's got 50 goals this year. That he can really, shoot that puck from anywhere on the ice. And, this particular goal, like, it was just, really good puck movement. And, William Nylander is a guy that we talked about, like, he's on the third line now. And, if he's on your third line, then that shows you, how dangerous of a team that you have. But yeah, I mean, you just can't give the Leafs that many power play opportunities. They're going to eventually bury them.
That's exactly right. And the Jets did fight back. There was 2-2. The Jets get a power play opportunity at the with Justin Hall getting a delay of game penalty for. I mean, that was just a brain dead play. He sort of toe picks and then decides that he's just going to put his hand on top of the puck and think that that's not going to get called a penalty. It's going to get called a penalty every time. Even these officials weren't going to miss that penalty call. He goes to the box for delay of game, and Nikolai Ehlers on the power play gets his 21st of the game, assist to Josh Morrissey, and this is where Scheifele gets his second assist of the contest. And it's, the Jets power play has some talent on it too. And the Jets demonstrated it there with Ehlers getting that goal to give the Jets a 3-2 lead. And maybe they're going to fight back. Maybe they're going to stay in the fight. Maybe they're going to find a way to tighten up their defensive game. Maybe they're going to find a way to stay out of the penalty box. Oh, maybe they didn't find that way. Nothing maybe about it. They simply didn't. And then it was Toronto Maple Leafs night from that point on, scoring 5 unanswered goals after the Jets had that 3-2 lead, Ezzy.
Yeah, sorry, just going back to the Nylander tying goal there on the power play. I had to watch the replay, Drew, because I forgot which one of the Nylander goals that was. It was Austin Matthews on the point, Marner on the half wall, and it was the rebound. It was the rebound off of the
end board and right back out.
And Morrissey fell down. I think it was Morrissey or DeMello fell down, and I think it was DeMello now that I think about it, and he just beats DeMello in front of the net. But it was one of those goals, again, just a fortuitous rebound, similar to what we talked about with, the Jets' second goal with Paul Stastny there. But yeah, I mean, we've watched so much hockey over the years, and it's always such a killer when, a team ties, you got a 2-goal lead, the other team ties it up, then you go ahead, you get your goal on the power play. And this is just, to me, I could simplify it. And even, Dennis and Kevin on the broadcast on TSN3 were talking about this. Like, this is Ehlers has a fantastic wrist shot. We know that. And, Blake Wheeler just provides a perfect screen. Like, I don't think Shalgren really even saw it. So, I mean, that was just kind of simple execution on the power play. So I just like the simplicity of the Jets power play. We know the Jets power play has been solid all year long. And, in this particular case, you like it. You know that Ehlers is going to get a lot of time on the first power play unit. It's amazing, actually, now that I think about it, Drew, that it has to be Kyle Connor coming out of the lineup for Nikolai Ehlers to get on that first power play. I know there's other reasons for that, like the right shot and everything like that. But, I mean, you watch that goal that put the Jets ahead 3-2, and you're like, Ehlers should be out there on the first power play unit every time. But I don't want to get into that because
That's
we've been
more of
talking about that for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's more of a Saturday show topic, and it's also something, you're right, that we've been talking about for a couple of years, and nothing appears to have going to change on that front. We'll see, maybe a new head coach in the offseason will change things up, but a lot of time to talk about that in what's going to look like an extended offseason for the Winnipeg Jets, something that we certainly did not expect at the beginning of the season. The Jets get that 3-2 lead, and then it's just a backbreaker. It takes the Leafs all of 23 seconds to tie the game. John Tavares gets his 23rd of the year, assist to former Winnipeg Jets defenseman, his first of the season, Carl Dahlstrom, and Mikheyev, who gets his, that'll be a 3-point night for him. Again, a very quality player for the Leafs. And that's just, look, you fight back, you give up the 2-goal lead, you fight back to tie the game, to take the lead at 3-2, and then to give it up that quickly and that easily. I blinked. I went and I think I gave my daughter a kiss goodnight, and I came back out, and all of a sudden it was 3-3 again. I'm like, what the heck just happened? I blinked for a minute, and the Leafs have tied the game again. And it's just a Winnipeg Jets team that cannot for their life lock down defensively. And you knew it was going to be difficult to lock down defensively against a very high-powered Toronto Maple Leafs team. But the Jets, you watch their coverage, you watch their D-zone play, you watch the penalties they give up, everything about it just is, look, you're not going to succeed when you're this loose in your own zone, because I point out that after the Leafs tied it here at 3-3, the Leafs got a lot tighter defensively, whereas the Jets just couldn't get out of their own way.
Yeah, and you know how I feel about John Tavares. I think a lot of Jets fans aren't going to like how much I like John Tavares. I think he's a top 5 center in the league. I'm not talking about offensively. I'm just talking about overall. And on that shift, like, Tavares is going up against Lowry and Heinola. Heinola's all over Tavares, and he even has decent body position. Like, he's boxing him out in front of the net. He just doesn't tie his stick up. He happens to be, one of the craftiest players in the entire league. So, speaking of tightening up defensively, like, it's just a killer because, what was it, 20 seconds or 25 seconds later?
23 seconds.
Yeah, it was just like, as Kevin Sawyer did say on the broadcast, I remember him saying this, like, they did have numbers, right? Like, it's a cliche thing that you hear in hockey, but, it's not like the Jets were out of position or anything like that. It was just a shot, and, Tavares jumps on the rebound.
Yeah, that's it. And it's 3-3. Just as quickly as the Jets were feeling good about themselves, they're back to questioning themselves with that Tavares goal. And then 4-3, or 3-3 becomes 4-3 very quickly. Another power play goal. William Nylander, his 26th of the season, his second of the game. Assist to Mitch Marner and Morgan Riley. And he just wins a goal mouth scramble. He wins a loose puck in front of the net, and he wants it more, or he's able to succeed more than the Jets were, and giving the Leafs a 4-3 lead. And you immediately felt the air just come out of the Winnipeg Jets sails when they finally have given up they're finally trailing for the first time in tonight's contest.
And Drew, you didn't know that was going to eventually be the game winner, but you got the feeling that, that was a key turning point in the game. We talked about, the real TSN turning point was, the Jets giving up the shorthanded goal to Ilya Mikheyev. That was the killer goal. But look at, that was actually the goal that I had mentioned that I had to go back and watch the replay. This was the goal where, Josh Morrissey is battling William Nylander in front of the net, and he just slips. And then Nylander, just jumps on the rebound. But the thing with the Leafs power play is we all know the skill. Also, Eric Comrie was going the other way. I wanted to get that in there. And so he was a little bit out of position. But what I wanted to say here is that, the Leafs have so much skill on the power play. But if you notice, they do this quite a bit. I've noticed this watching the Leafs. Like, they'll just, whether it's Tavares, whether it's, Matthews taking a point shot, and Marner, they have so much skill that they'll purposely shoot the puck to get the rebound. And a guy like Nylander will just go in there, and they've got so many guys with good hands that it really doesn't matter who you put in that position. There's so many interchangeable pieces there. So it's really a power play that, it's almost unstoppable, the Leafs power play. Like, you can't stop it, but you give them 4 or 5 chances, they're going to score a goal or two.
Look, they can pass it around Harlem Globetrotters style, but they can also score from the dirty areas. They're not afraid to get dirty with it. They're not afraid to, go hard to the net. And so, it's definitely a pick your poison sort of situation. But when you give up the number of power plays and power play opportunities that the Jets did in tonight's game, well, it's no wonder that they eventually get burned by it all. That's the problem, is you just can't afford to take that many penalties. And I'm talking about when the game was still a game. You can't afford to take that many penalties because you're eventually going to get burned. It's like playing against the Edmonton Oilers. It's like playing against any of the best power plays in the league. It's going to come back to bite you. And it certainly did the Winnipeg Jets tonight, as the Leafs end up with those 2 power play goals in the second period that really are part of the difference in tonight's contest. Never mind what really made the difference, which is coming up right now, the 5-3 goal with Mikheyev shorthanded, assist to Pierre Engvall and Justin Hall. Engvall takes a hit to make a play. You've heard the cliche. He takes a big body check from Pierre-Luc Dubois, but he springs Mikheyev on the breakaway, and Mark Scheifele is in a trailing position. And you go back and you watch the video, and maybe one more stride from Mark Scheifele, especially at the hash marks, rather than coasting. If he takes another stride, he might be able to catch up, or at least interfere with Mikheyev getting off the shot as seamlessly as he did. But Mark Scheifele is what Mark Scheifele is, I guess, at this point. I mean, he just doesn't hustle his buns back to break up a play. You think back to last night and Blake Wheeler in overtime hustling back to break up that play for Tage Thompson, where Tage Thompson looked like he was coming in on a breakaway, and Wheeler comes back and makes the back check necessary. Scheifele here in a position to really, with the spotlight on him, make a defensive play, keep the game 4-3, keep your power play going. Doesn't make it. And it's 5-3 Leafs, Ezzy.
There were a few things that were happening on this goal that you don't like to see on a team's power play. We talked about, how good Josh Morrissey's been, playing a lot of hockey, but, in this particular case, Pierre Engvall and Ilya Mikheyev both create an odd man situation on Nikolai Ehlers, right? So they create the turnover.
Yeah.
And then Josh Morrissey's play, I don't like, because Josh Morrissey then goes in to make a play on Pierre Engvall, and then Engvall uses the boards and chips the puck up. Then Pierre-Luc Dubois goes in, and I forget who the player was. I'm watching the replay right now as we're here live. That it was Engvall. So then Pierre-Luc Dubois goes in to nail Pierre Engvall. Yeah. And then you're right. Scheifele's not, skating hard enough. Mikheyev, that is, has a step on Scheifele. And then it's a nice move on Eric Comrie. Give, Mikheyev credit. I mean, he's just not a grinder. He's got some hands, but that was, to me, part of that was, Morrissey. It wasn't a pinch because Morrissey's got to make a play there. Yeah. But what I would have liked to see is, Morrissey maybe, pin Engvall up against the boards, something like that, just kind of prevent him, from then poking the puck ahead and then eventually getting the puck to Mikheyev. So you're right. I mean, it wasn't a great back check from Scheifele, but also, I mean, it was just really good, a combination of really good penalty killing from Engvall and Mikheyev closing in on Ehlers, creating that turnover, but then Morrissey putting himself out of position as Engvall chipped the puck along the boards.
To your point there, Morrissey has to either back off at the blue line,
exactly,
or make the play. You can't you can't do neither.
Right. He failed to make the play. And again, I'm not picking on Morrissey here. Anybody who's ever listened to the show knows that he's a personal favorite of mine, and I think many Jets fans. Yeah. But in that particular case, I mean, we're just pointing out that individual play. We're not saying he had a bad game, because later it was it the third period or the second period, I forget, Drew, Morrissey rang one off the post. Mm-hmm. And then we weren't really sure where the puck went. I don't think anybody really knew where the puck went. I think most people thought it went out of play. But he hit. Yeah, so Morrissey was good tonight. It just on that particular play, I think it didn't. I'm not even saying his decision making was bad there. I'm just saying Engvall made a better play on Morrissey.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So, what was a 2-1 Winnipeg Jets lead after 20 minutes has completely gone by the wayside. It's a tire fire now. It's a 5-3 Leafs lead after 40 minutes. And so the question in the third period is, what are the Jets going to come out as? What kind of jump are the Jets going to have? What kind of push are the Jets going to have? Second half of a back-to-back situation. They've played a lot of hockey in the last 24 hours. What do they have left in the tank? And the answer was not a lot. They had some peripheral shots on goal in that third period, in the first few minutes of that third period, but the Leafs did a very good job at preventing the Jets from really getting much that I would call dangerous. Shalgren did a good job of just making routine saves and not really doing anything that was buffoon-like to let the Jets back into the game, and the Jets just didn't have any more push in them to come back. And I don't know that you can blame it on being tired. Sometimes you got to dig deep and really find a way. But really, they were just outclassed by the Maple Leafs in that third period and in that second period. And you got to see the disparity that's on display between a Winnipeg Jets team that is middling and a Toronto Maple Leafs team that is very good. And then sort of pouring the salt in the wounds of Winnipeg Jets fans, it's Auston Matthews getting his 50th on the season, assist to Mitch Marner into the empty net that made it 6-3. And then there was, of course, the delay in the game happening because the fans were throwing things on the ice to celebrate. I'm really not sure what was going on with that, but look, to the victors go the spoils, and the home crowd decided to celebrate by shedding themselves of some clothing.
Yeah, nice for Austin to get the the 50th goal there. We knew it was just a matter of time. He has a good shot at 60. I don't think it's going to be easy, but we knew 50 was coming eventually, right? But
Yeah.
what I thought was funny or peculiar or interesting was David Kampf has a chance, right? Hits the post. So you're thinking, like, is that going to come back? Or the Jets going to make this a 1-goal game?
Yeah.
And then that's going to kind of be the Patrick Stefan moment. If you guys remember, maybe the worst empty net attempt of all time. We've seen that many times on TSN,
on the highlights,
best of, and Sportsnet and everything like that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, one of the best chances I remember is Morgan Barron had a decent point blank shot that Eric Shalgren stopped in the third period. But the game was over. We talked about it when it was 5-3. Ilya Mikheyev, like, you're down 2 goals on the road against a very good Leafs team. That was just killer, giving up 2 power play goals and the shorthanded goal. And you saw Nikolai Ehlers had a few scoring chances in the third period, and aside from that, there wasn't a lot. And the Jets pulled their goalie, and even the 4-on-4, it was Pierre-Luc Dubois and Pierre Engvall who got called for roughing, and I didn't really even think that it was kind of, they weren't even like, it's not like they were exchanging punches or anything like that. They kind of just got caught up and were pushing each other a little bit. I even thought, like, the 4-on-4, you thought maybe the Jets are going to take advantage with Ehlers using his speed, and Scheifele was flying around a little bit there, but there wasn't a lot to it. And as you mentioned, I mean, the 6-3 goal that just really made it official.
Yeah, exactly right. And then, of course, the Leafs wrap up the scoring with yet another power play goal. 7-3 is the final. Liljegren, his second of the year, assist to Nylander and Mark Giordano. And, at that point in time, it was just window dressing and no big deal at that point. So we don't need to delve too deeply into that one. But it was a 7-3 defeat by the Maple Leafs against the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets obviously lose an opportunity to make up some ground in the wild card race. They stay 2 points behind the Vegas Golden Knights. The Dallas Stars are a point in front of the Jets, and they're actually in action again tonight against the Anaheim Ducks. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Stars are up 1-0, and they are with about 6 minutes or so to go in the first period.
Jets need the Ducks to help them out.
Yeah, well, the Jets needed the Ducks to help them out on Tuesday night when they played the Stars, and the Stars came back with a third period win there. But you're right. If the Stars are able to win tonight in Anaheim, they will be a full 3 points up on the Jets and still have 3 games in hand. So it's getting late early for the Winnipeg Jets, especially on the heels of the Jets' loss tonight in Toronto, 7-3. The Jets, of course, next in action on, it doesn't get much easier, the upstart, probably the most surprising team in the NHL this year. The Los Angeles Kings come to town on Saturday night. We'll talk about that next. We'll give away a Tough Duck Toque, talk more about the Jets and the Leafs, read you some of the tweets and some of the comments from the post-game coverage. Don't go anywhere. It's the Illegal Curve post-game show. The game recap brought to you by Betway, the sports betting app that puts you, the customer, at the forefront. Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. He's Ezra Ginsburg. I'm Drew Mandel. Don't go anywhere. It's the Illegal Curve postgame show. We'll be right back with more coverage live on YouTube and all of our social media platforms.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Hey boys, finding parking on game day shouldn't take longer than the Minute Minute.
It shouldn't take longer than 1 minute?
Yeah, less than a minute? I spend at least 20 driving around to find street parking, or if I'm in a rush to the game, I'll shovel out 20 at a parkade.
You're both doing it wrong. There's this app called Grid Park. It lets you find and pre-book your parking spot on game days, and you can reserve your spot up to 1 month in advance. And guess how much you'll pay?
Tell me, Dave. You know I love a deal.
Ezzy, $5.
Come on, $5?
Yeah, and it's just 2 blocks from the arena.
The Grid Park app?
Yep, spelled GRYD Park. And you know what else?
There's more?
Our listeners get their first park free with the code FIRSTPARK.
Wow, so they just download the Grid Park app and pre-book their next game day spot for free?
Yeah, you got it, Ez. Promo code FIRSTPARK. Only on the Grid Park app.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. Thursday night, welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Ezra Ginsburg with you. Reminder, Saturday morning, 9 a.m., the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We'll be back here talking about the Winnipeg Jets, talking about the playoff race, talking about the week that was, based and getting you set for Saturday night's game against the Los Angeles Kings, which reminds me to say that post-game on Saturday night, right around 8:45 p.m., myself and Mr. Ginsburg, and I honestly don't know when Dave is back. So maybe Dave, I have no clue.
I think he's back tomorrow.
Oh, okay. So maybe we're going to see him on Saturday. We're not sure or not if he's back or not. But it
takes a while to get home from Kuala Lumpur, though. It's not a short flight.
Not a direct
flight. No direct flights. Yeah.
No, surprisingly, I would have thought
it's like there's Winnipeg to Palm Springs, but there's no Winnipeg to Kuala Lumpur.
No, there's not, unfortunately. So that might be something they're going to look to put into place at the with our friends at Winnipeg Airport authorities. We'll have to talk to them about that direct flight from Winnipeg to as soon as they look up the capital city of Kuala Lumpur, because I really don't know what it is. And it's really not that important, I think, at this point in time.
Is Kuala Lumpur a city or a country?
It's a country.
City?
I think it's a country.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a country. But you can look that up while I read off some of the quotes from the Winnipeg Jets players post-game. Nikolai Ehlers on belief and what's at stake. This coming from our friend Murat Atesh of The Athletic. Quote, there's got to be some belief in winning games because we've got the team to do it. We've played some really good games this year. We've played some really bad games. Yeah, you have, Nikki. And we've just got to get some wins. That's hockey. It's a city, apparently. It's the capital of Malaysia, apparently, according to Jason Eastwood. So there you go. Yes, it's an hour flight north of Singapore. John Chan, have you been to Kuala Lumpur? If you have, tell us what
John's
it's like in the
probably
chat.
Been there many times.
I would think so. If it's only an hour away. Look, I apologize for my ignorance regarding Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur. I maybe one day hope to visit when we go, and maybe Dave and I will travel there together one day if we're so lucky. Winnipeg defended well early. Nick Ehlers explains why. Quote, I thought it was just getting back as quick as possible and shutting the middle down. And that created some turnovers for us to turn it around. Shutting the middle down, something that the Winnipeg Jets have not been able to do very well this year. Here's interim head coach Dave Lowry, asked if Wheeler and Stasny's goals gave the Jets false hope. Quote, I wouldn't say false hope. I liked our start. They being the Leafs, a good hockey team. We gave up the one goal that goes in off our body and allows them to generate some momentum. I thought we battled. They scored right after we scored, and then they took over the game. That's interim head coach Dave Lowry on the Jets play.
What does that
tonight.
mean? I don't know who asked that question, but does a 2-0 lead give you false hope? I mean, it depends what happens after that, right? I guess in the sense that the Jets were getting pretty badly outshot, and the Jets scored, 2 goals on the first 4 shots?
Yeah.
Right? I guess that's maybe what, the reporter was getting at when saying, the Jets were maybe given false hope, but that's what you want. In the second game of a back-to-back on the road, especially, you want to score a couple goals and put the other team on their heels. They just, they had a horrible second period, and they gave, the Leafs all those power play goals, and then also gave up a shorthanded goal. So I don't know what the false hope narrative is all about.
Here's Blake Wheeler on tonight's early highs and late lows. Quote, I thought we played good in the first, and then I think we were cooked the rest of the game. We just didn't have anything. Tried to push a little bit in the third and couldn't get one to go early. I think that's probably pretty fair of the Winnipeg Jets captain, a fair assessment.
Well, Wheeler was fine tonight. He had a good game.
Oh, it wasn't on Wheeler.
No.
Yeah, I thought he was everything you would have asked for from, I thought he played pretty well for the Winnipeg Jets. If the more of the forwards and more of the team played like Wheeler, I think the team would have probably been in a better position. But that is obviously not how it went down tonight in Toronto. The Jets losing by that 7-3 margin. Ezzy, Tough Duck, hardest hitting comment. Who are we giving it to tonight?
We're going to send it out to Toronto. We're going to send it out to a member of the esteemed Manouk family who has many members here in Winnipeg. You've got the comment up there. Harvey was at the game in Toronto. They looked tired. I was there. They looked tired, demoralized, and the game was exactly their year. Missed passes, no jam, no puck luck, not enough third or fourth line scoring support, and no defensive structure. So you don't get much more hard hitting than that, Harvey.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you.
Harvey said in one sentence what we've been rambling on about for the last 48 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So with Dave Manouk not here right now, we're going to give it to a member of his family. So Harvey, send me an email, ezra@illegalcurve.com, with your mailing address there in Toronto, or in the GTA, and we will ship out a Tough Duck toque for you.
There you go. Congratulations to Harvey, finally getting his name on the illustrious Tough Duck hardest hitting comment trophy. There is no trophy, but at least he's getting a toque for his troubles. And so, Harvey, you always remember that when push came to shove, it wasn't Dave Manouk that hooked you up. It was Ginsburg and Mindell that hooked you up. So there you go. Oh, he's saying he's coming to Winnipeg and he's going to buy us lunch. There you go, Harvey. We'll take you up on that offer.
I mean, I'm 100% down for that. You want to do a little Bernstein's? We can do anything. I'm down.
We
you
can have
pick
a
the
little
date and time, Harvey, and we'll do it.
There you go. Exactly right. That goes for the same for everybody, by the way. If you're willing to buy us lunch, we're willing to sit down and eat with you.
Yeah. We'll give you toques. We'll give you mitts. We'll give you whatever, jackets, whatever. Just get us food in our bellies.
That's basically it. We're willing to sell out. We're going to sell ourselves for cheap as long as we get some food out of it all. Mr. Ginsburg, we're going to do it again Saturday morning. Oh,
Harvey's saying Ray and Jerry's, by the way. I could do a clubhouse any day of the week, Harvey.
We know that you can there. We know. I've seen you pack it in. I have no doubts that you're up to that challenge there, Ezra. Saturday morning, you and I will be back, 9 a.m., the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Dave will be back, too.
Oh, will he? There you go. So
he'll be back.
Okay.
I don't know when he gets in on Friday.
Yeah.
But I know he's back Friday, so we will be doing the show from Dave's house.
You're gonna kick that door in regardless of what's going on, right? You're gonna park yourself in his living room, even if he's nowhere to be found. That's okay.
I miss Dave.
I'm sure you do. You guys usually spend your quality time together. I think you're probably both going through some form of withdrawal, not being able to see each other, and then watch movies like you guys do after the post game shows sometimes. If only you all know what went down with Ezzy, what goes down with Ezzy and Dave after the post game shows.
Not a lot. It's really just a couple guys hanging out.
Yeah, it's kind of a little sad when you really think about it. They're spending quality time with themselves and not their significant others after spending time together during the post game shows. But who am I?
Bromance judge? That's what it is.
It is definitely a bromance. The bromance will continue, like I said, Saturday morning and then again Saturday night. Until then, we encourage everybody to check out illegalcurve.com for all your latest post-game coverage. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, leave us some comments, tell your friends, tell your family members. The best place to be Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. And again, after each and every Winnipeg Jets game is the Illegal Curve post-game show. For Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mindell. Thanks for joining us. This has been the Illegal Curve post-game show.